Welcome back to another deep dive. Today is Monday, June 1st, 2026, and, well, we have a really fascinating one for you today.
Yeah, we really do. We have a highly detailed practical guide on fleet resiliency from the Environmental Defense Fund,
Right.
as well as comprehensive market outlooks by TechSci Research and some recent deployment data from major players like B-Charged EV.
Yeah, they have had some huge announcements lately. But before we can really grasp the mechanics of this mobile charging industry, we first have to unpack the massive real-world anxiety driving it.
Oh, absolutely. The breaking point.
Right, the moment where the industry realized the current trajectory was physically impossible.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine you just bought a brand new state-of-the-art smartphone.
The kind you pay a premium for.
Exactly. It has all the latest features, a beautiful screen, lightning-fast processing, but there's a massive structural catch.
Oh, there usually is.
Yeah, you are only allowed to charge this amazing piece of technology at a handful of specific public payphone booths scattered randomly around town.
Which sounds ridiculous when you frame it like that.
Right. And to make matters worse, half the time you finally locate one of these booths, the cord is cut, the screen is blank, or, I don't know, there's a line of 3 people waiting to use it.
And that completely negates the point of having advanced mobile technology in the first place.
Exactly.
You are basically tethered to a static, unpredictable, and frankly archaic support system. The device itself is from the 21st century, but the infrastructure keeping it alive operates on a fundamentally broken model.
And that tension right there is what we are pulling apart today. Let's look at the sheer volume of vehicles hitting the road. In 2023 alone, global EV sales hit a record 14 million units.
Which is a 35% jump in a single year.
Right, it's huge. Consumers are showing up, they're buying the cars.
But the infrastructure is drowning.
Yeah.
According to the July 2024 data, the national ratio of electric vehicles to public charging ports in the United States reached 29 to 1.
Wait, 29 to 1?
Yeah, 29 cars for every single public port.
Wow.
If you visualize that spatially, imagine a single parking spot with a charger and 29 different drivers trying to coordinate their daily schedules around who gets to park there
Wow.
and for how long. The density gap is structurally unsustainable.
And that assumes the charger in that parking spot actually works, which is a big assumption. The sources note that public chargers can fail anywhere from 25% to 50% of the time.
It's really frustrating for drivers.
Yeah, the first try success rate, meaning a driver pulls up, plugs the cable into their car, and the energy actually starts flowing, is a dismal 55%.
Barely a coin toss.
Right. Why is that failure rate so staggeringly high? I mean, it's just electricity flowing through a wire, isn't it?
Well, it is significantly more complex than a standard electrical outlet in your house. A public fast charger requires a continuous, really complex software handshake.
Between the car and the station.
Yes, between the station, the vehicle's internal computer, the payment processing network, and the local utility grid. If any one of those nodes drops the signal, the charge fails. Add in physical wear and tear, vandalism, and the fact that these stations are often left exposed to extreme weather, well, you get that 55% success rate.
Which brings us to a really great quote from Dr. Elena Marquez in the research. She states that range anxiety is a psychological barrier as much as a practical one.
What's fascinating here is how that psychology actually alters behavior.
Yeah, because even if a driver does 80% of their charging overnight at their own house, that visceral fear of being stranded in a charging desert, it just looms over them.
And the fear is entirely rational, When the fuel gauge on a combustion engine gets low, the driver knows they can pull over at any corner, spend 3 minutes at a pump, and just drive away.
Right, it's thoughtless.
But the EV experience currently involves looking at an app, seeing the nearest charger is 20 miles away, driving there, and finding out the screen is dead. The entire industry recognized that this psychological friction is the single greatest threat to mass EV adoption.
So if the stationary chargers are failing, why not just build better ones and, build them faster?
The bottleneck is municipal bureaucracy and electrical physics.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, installing a commercial grid-tied station isn't just dropping a metal box on a sidewalk. It takes 18 to 24 months.
2 years. Just for a charger.
Yeah. A company has to secure real estate, acquire municipal permits, and most importantly, coordinate with the utility company to upgrade the local transformers.
Because the grid can't handle it.
Exactly. The local grid often cannot handle the massive sudden draw of multiple cars fast charging simultaneously. The capital expenditure just to get a single commercial setup operational easily exceeds $45,000.
Wow. Okay, so if building a station takes 2 years, requires tearing up concrete, and costs a fortune, the market naturally hacked the system by removing the real estate from the equation entirely.
Which is where we see the rise of charging as a service, or COS.
Right, and the numbers here are wild. The U.S. cost market was valued at $268 million in 2025 and is projected to surpass $425 million by 2030.
It is growing incredibly fast.
Yeah, companies like BeCharged EV are rolling out into 100 U.S. cities, and they even launched internationally in places like Mexico City.
And they are completely bypassing that 18-month utility permitting process we just talked about. Instead of bringing the car to the energy, they are bringing the energy to the car.
Using a subscription model, right?
Yes, the subscription economy. They offer an unlimited charging monthly membership. For a flat fee, a driver just gets peace of mind. If they need power, they open an app, and a mobile battery unit is dispatched directly to their location.
Okay, I had to push back hard on this unit economics model, though. Let's look at the logistics.
Sure.
We are talking about paying a human technician to drive a van containing a massive battery through city traffic, park, plug in a car, and wait. That sounds exactly like emergency AAA roadside assistance.
I can see why you'd say that.
I mean, how is driving a giant battery to a single car a scalable, profitable business model for daily use? Are we really paying someone $30 an hour in labor to deliver $15 worth of electricity?
Well, if the model relied on one-to-one emergency dispatching across a sprawling city, yes, it would instantly go bankrupt.
Right.
The mechanism that makes it profitable is predictive spatial clustering, which is driven by AI. It is an evolution away from reactive emergency assistance. Let's look at the utilization data for a second.
Oh,
In places like Las Vegas, stationary chargers have a 45.5% utilization rate. Miami is at 40.2%.
so they're constantly being used.
Exactly. That means chargers are almost always occupied, creating massive queues. Mobile units bypass the queue entirely by operating where the cars are already idle.
You mean like office parks and high-density residential buildings?
Precisely. The mobile units do not act like tow trucks. They act more like an ice cream truck for energy.
An ice cream truck, I love that.
Yeah. A single technician drives a mobile unit into a massive corporate parking garage. Because of predictive AI clustering, they already know there are 8 vehicles in that specific garage that need a charge before 5:400 p.m.
Oh, wow. So they just go down the line?
Yes. The technician moves down the row, charging vehicle after vehicle without ever re-entering city traffic.
That makes the AI aspect of this suddenly make sense. The sources mentioned that BeCharged launched a proprietary platform called Predictive Smart Charging, or PSCAI,
Right.
and it integrates with the vehicle's telemetry. But I need to understand that mechanism. What does telemetry actually mean in this specific context?
Telemetry is the automatic wireless transmission of data from the vehicle's internal sensors to a remote system. So the car is constantly communicating its battery health, current charge level, and location to the mobile charging network.
Without the driver doing anything.
Exactly. The AI takes that data and cross-references it with your driving habits. It completely eliminates the burden of the driver having to remember to check their battery.
Think of it less like an emergency tow truck and more like your home's smart thermostat, you know?
That's a great analogy.
A smart thermostat learns your routine, realizes you come home at 6:00 p.m., and preheats or cools the house before you even walk in the door. This AI learns your commute. If it knows you have a 40-mile drive tomorrow morning and your battery only has 20 miles of range left, the system essentially preheats your range. It prompts you to authorize a charge and routes a mobile unit to your driveway overnight while you sleep.
You wake up and the car is ready. The friction of the charging desert is entirely removed from the user experience.
It's seamless.
But, as you pointed out earlier, the software routing only works if the physical hardware can keep up. If the technician is sitting in your driveway for 10 hours waiting for the battery to fill, the clustering model falls apart.
Right, which means we need to look at the physical tech race happening here.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The sources highlight a massive shift away from level 2 AC chargers toward high-capacity portable DC fast chargers.
This is crucial.
So for anyone listening who isn't an electrical engineer, what is the functional difference between those two acronyms?
Well, AC stands for alternating current, which is what comes out of the standard wall outlets in your home. The battery inside an electric vehicle can only store DC or direct current.
Okay, so there has to be a conversion.
Exactly. If you use an AC charger, the vehicle has to use its own onboard converter to slowly change that AC power into DC power. It is an incredibly severe bottleneck.
Like trying to fill a massive swimming pool using a standard garden hose?
Yes, it takes hours and hours.
So the mobile DC fast chargers remove the car's internal converter from the equation entirely.
Yes, a DC fast charger handles the conversion outside the vehicle. It pumps direct current straight into the battery pack.
So instead of a garden hose, it is like opening a fire hydrant.
Much faster. These new mobile units are capable of delivering 50 to 100 miles of range in just 15 to 30 minutes.
That speed is what enables the high-density parking garage model you mentioned earlier.
Exactly.
And the hardware taking advantage of this speed is getting incredibly futuristic. TechSci Research highlighted an autonomous robot called the FlashBot, built by a company called Ion Dynamics.
The robotic side of this is wild.
It really is. It literally navigates parking lots on its own to charge cars. Think of it like having a robotic pit crew living in your local grocery store parking lot.
It's straight out of science fiction.
But how does a robot safely handle plugging a high-voltage cable into a vehicle without human supervision?
It relies heavily on machine vision and standardized charging ports. The robot maps the parking lot, locates the specific vehicle via its GPS telemetry, and uses an articulated arm guided by cameras to physically align and insert the heavy DC cable.
That is amazing.
And for property owners, this is revolutionary. A grocery store or a mall, they don't want to lose parking spaces or tear up their asphalt to install permanent cables.
Right, because that takes construction and permits.
Exactly. They can simply purchase a few FlashBots that live in a corner of the lot and autonomously roam to wherever the demand is.
But the innovations aren't just limited to robotics and parking lots. The sources also mention Pioneer Power building mobile microgrids. What exactly constitutes a microgrid in this mobile context?
A standard grid is the massive interconnected network of power plants and transmission lines managed by a utility company. A microgrid is a self-contained, localized energy system.
So it's independent.
Right. Pioneer Power is building towable units that combine high-capacity batteries with their own power generation, sometimes via low-emission generators or solar, that can deliver up to 500 kilowatts of independent power.
Wow, 500 kilowatts.
Yeah, they can operate completely decoupled from the wider utility grid.
There is also GoSun, which developed a solar-powered portable charger that mounts directly onto a standard car roof rack, continually trickle charging the vehicle using nothing but sunlight.
Another great example.
The underlying theme across all of this hardware, the robots, the microgrids, the solar racks, is off-grid independence.
And off-grid capability solves the fundamental vulnerability of stationary chargers. During severe heat waves, violent winter storms, or public safety power shutoffs.
Where utilities preemptively cut power to prevent wildfires. Right.
Exactly. During those events, grid-tied stations become useless metal bricks. Mobile charging is service-centric, not asset-centric. When the local grid fails, mobile units continue operating, bringing the energy directly to the zones that are cut off.
Which brings us to a massive pivot in the data. Because while a solar-powered roof rack or an autonomous robot is great for a commuter, everyday drivers are not the financial heavyweights driving this multi-million-dollar industry.
No, the real capital is coming from commercial fleets.
Right. We are talking about Amazon, FedEx, local plumbing fleets, delivery services. For a logistics business, a dead battery is not just an inconvenience, it is an immediate, catastrophic loss of revenue.
The Environmental Defense Fund report breaks down the math on this brilliantly. When a commercial delivery fleet transitions from traditional internal combustion engines to electric vehicles, they are executing a profound operational shift.
How so?
They are essentially firing their traditional fuel suppliers and hiring their local electric utility company to be their sole source of fuel.
And while the utility grid is generally reliable for, turning on your living room lights, relying on it to fuel 100 delivery vans is a massive risk.
A huge risk.
The EDF report specifically highlights the danger of hurricane-induced outages, noting that 70% of them last for more than 12 hours. If a fleet of delivery vans cannot charge overnight because a storm knocked out the substation down the street, that company has zero delivery capacity the next morning.
And the financial bleeding there is severe. The EDF analysis estimates that downtime costs a logistics company roughly $100 per hour per van.
$100 an hour.
Yes. If you have a moderate fleet of 50 vans paralyzed for an entire day, the lost revenue and broken service level agreements scale incredibly fast.
So what does this all mean? A logistics manager might look at that risk and decide they need to build their own stationary backup power. They want to be self-reliant.
That's the logical first thought, yeah.
But the EDF data shows why that is an engineering nightmare. Let's look at the spatial footprint. The report states that generating enough backup power for a moderately sized fleet, roughly a 1 megawatt solar array, requires about 6 acres of physical space.
Which is massive.
To put that in perspective, 6 acres is about 4.5 American football fields of solid solar panels. Urban distribution centers in places like Brooklyn or downtown Chicago simply do not have 4.5 football fields of empty land available.
They really don't. And if they try to substitute that land footprint by stacking battery energy storage systems in a warehouse, the capital expenditure is prohibitive.
The batteries are that expensive.
Industrial battery storage costs roughly $400 per kilowatt hour. Outfitting an entire depot with enough batteries to survive a multi-day blackout requires millions of dollars in upfront capital.
If backup solar systems take up 6 acres and massive battery walls cost millions, what about traditional diesel generators? They are relatively cheap, you can park them in an alleyway, and they generate massive power.
They do, but they create a logistical and ideological paradox. First, burning diesel fuel to charge an electric van defeats the entire regulatory purpose of transitioning to a clean zero-emission fleet.
Oh, right, you're just burning diesel anyway.
Exactly. Second, during a regional disaster like a hurricane, diesel fuel supply chains break down. Roads are flooded and fuel trucks cannot reach the depot. You might have a generator, but no fuel to run it.
So how do logistics companies survive without going bankrupt on infrastructure?
This is where mobile charging swoops in as the ultimate safety net. Commercial fleets are realizing they do not need to spend millions of dollars building a massive 6-acre microgrid.
They just rent the power.
Yes. They are using companies like Be-Charged EV to shift their energy strategy from a capital expenditure like buying massive batteries to an operational expenditure. They simply hire mobile charging as a service.
It allows a logistics company to scale instantly. Think about the holiday delivery rush in December. A fleet might temporarily rent 20 extra electric vans to handle the volume.
And their local grid-tied depot chargers cannot handle 20 extra vehicles simultaneously.
Right, so instead of rationing power or paying for expensive infrastructure upgrades that they only need for 1 month a year, they simply schedule a mobile high-speed DC charging truck to handle the peak overflow in their parking lot.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the flexibility is incredible. It fundamentally changes risk tolerance for these companies.
The sources also detail how mobile charging is being used to fix systemic geographical gaps through initiatives like the APEX 300 program. What exactly is that acronym targeting?
The APEX 300 initiative targets underserved community zones. These are geographical areas where the return on investment for building permanent grid-tied stations is considered too low by utility companies or private networks.
So they just get ignored.
Exactly. As a result, these areas become infrastructure deserts. Instead of waiting years for policy changes or grid subsidies to build permanent stations, logistics companies and municipalities can instantly deploy mobile charging units to these zones.
Just drive them right in.
Yes. Ensuring their fleets or public transit vehicles can operate reliably in areas the grid essentially abandoned.
The impact of that instant infrastructure is playing out globally right now. Let's look at Be-Charged EV's launch in Mexico City. They are aggressively targeting the commercial rideshare market, specifically Uber drivers.
The data there is really compelling.
It is. It shows these drivers are pulling 65 to 70 kilowatts from mobile units, which allows them to get a full charge in roughly 20 to 30 minutes.
And that speed is the difference between making rent and falling behind. For a rideshare driver, time is literal currency.
Exactly.
If they rely on the sparse fixed infrastructure currently available in the city, they might spend 2 hours navigating traffic to find a working charger, waiting in a queue, and using a slow AC connection.
Losing out on fares the whole time.
Right. By using a mobile DC fast charger, they condense a 2-hour ordeal into 20 minutes. They return to the road and capture 2 or 3 more fares that they would have otherwise missed.
It transforms charging from a real estate and construction problem into a pure logistics and software optimization solution.
It really does.
To kind of synthesize the sheer scope of what we have explored today, the electric vehicle market hit a breaking point where record-breaking sales collided with the rigid, slow-moving utility grid, resulting in a staggering 29-to-1 ratio of cars to public plugs. The solution was not to dig more trenches, but to decouple the energy from the concrete.
Powered by AI telemetry that predicts a battery's deficit before the driver even realizes it, and armed with high-capacity DC fast chargers that deliver 100 miles of range in minutes, the industry shifted to a service model.
Completely.
Whether it is an autonomous robot navigating a grocery store parking lot or a mobile microgrid keeping an entire fleet of delivery vans running during a regional blackout, energy is no longer a destination. It is a dispatchable service.
So, as you process all these mechanics, take a moment to evaluate your own daily infrastructure dependencies. We are fundamentally conditioned to travel to physical locations to acquire the resources we need, whether that is driving to a gas station, visiting a grocery store, or hunting down a charging hub.
It's how we've always done things.
Right. But as AI-driven logistics and robotics mature, consider how this as-a-service architecture might dismantle other physical anchors in your life. What other massive pieces of infrastructure will soon sever their ties to the ground and start coming directly to you?
It forces us to question the permanence of the built environment we completely take for granted.
It really does.
Right.
Which leaves us with a final concept to mull over. If our vehicles are already capable of seamlessly communicating with mobile networks, if they can monitor their own internal systems, predict their own energy deficits via machine learning, and autonomously authorize a high-speed charge from a roaming battery van while we sleep,
The logical next question is,
will the concept of a stationary public gas station or charging plaza completely evaporate in our lifetime? Will the next generation view pulling a car up to a static metal box the exact same way we view standing in the rain trying to use a broken public payphone?